Roland, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So you developed the 6 social media skills every leader needs. Could you tell us or share your experience so far with feedback from the market?
Yeah, we were absolutely stunned and overwhelmed by the feedback we got for an article, which more a scholarly article and gives you management frameworks. We got more than 120,000 downloads and more than 12,000 tweets. So it's kind of a blockbuster. Actually, when McKinsey did the ranking of the articles, we ranked among the top 10 in 2012. I think the reason for this being is that the topic obviously strikes a chord. Social media, in terms of collaborative technology, becomes more and more important in companies. Of course, they have also demographics entering the workplace that are familiar with that kind of stuff. But the main thing is also, I think we provided an easy framework of 6 key capabilities that organizations need to develop, not only leaders, also organizations need to develop, that help to structure the arena a little bit. And I think that's what people loved. Obviously, also we had the case of GE, we had McKinsey Quarterly, we have the Drucker School, those are big names that also helped, I guess, to get attention.
And you named GE, McKinsey, so all global brands. I mean, could you describe some cultural differences between probably maybe American and German leadership skills?
Well, interestingly, I think that we have a history of the United States being management science, Taylorism and all that kind of stuff. Measuring what's possible and having a lot of metrics in the management kind of KPIs. What we find more in Europe, I think, is a more values-based style of leadership. We have the traditions, specifically in Germany, for instance, with co-determination. There is a tradition of dialogue. You have boards that are composed of unions and executives. So what I see in Europe is a more kind of a culture of dialogue. Is not as a tough leadership kind of vertical style that I find in the US. On the other hand, I think the US is more bottom line, it's more performance based, so taking it also very important to just streamline everything. And as we are now going global and all those organizations work all across the world, this is somehow bleeding into each other. So I would say the US learns from Europe, Europe learns from the US, and we all maybe learn from the emerging markets in the future.
Do you think that somebody, talking about a training program, do people who train social media skills, do they benefit in their general leadership skills development as well?
Well, absolutely. Think about what is leadership. What we said in our article is we see a kind of a transformation from the purely vertical command and control culture. So leadership means I have to decide, I have to implement, to execute, to something where leadership also becomes a more influencing kind of skill, leading across boundaries where my partner is as powerful as I am, or I have to lead without having power. Now that's what social media, of course, is about. It's a very strong horizontal kind of dynamic that I have to master. So if I'm good at social media skills as we describe them, for instance, understanding how messages travel in informal environments that I cannot control, activating and facilitating networks and collaboration, that's exactly what the leadership of the future needs to be. So I think it's nothing else than the future of leadership, what we're seeing in these social media skills.
So if it's as important as you described, what would you say would be the best method to train the corporate training program for social media skills?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I think we also see that the practice of training and learning is in transformation through these kind of technologies. We see more and more platforms where people collaborate, self-organized in communities. And while there are some specific things that you can really train maybe and learn, for instance, how to best use certain softwares, filtering skills for whatever. I think the main thing is that organizations need to create enabling infrastructures and new roles that help networks to thrive. So, for instance, let's say network coordinators, community developers, brokers of certain knowledge that happens between groups and stuff. And by doing so, then people start to engage, and by getting engaged, they learn. So I think it's very much a learning by doing, because I don't think that you go into the classroom, you learn now how to do things, then you post something, nobody reads the post, there is no resonance. So you need to also create the organizational culture around that.
So one additional last question in terms of learning: what do you think about social learning concepts within companies, corporate entities? So that they do exactly what you said, develop an internal and a knowledge sharing network related to social media skills.
Yeah, that is absolutely also the trend we're going to see. There's a whole movement right now saying 70-20-10, which means only 10% of learning happens in the classroom. The majority happens in action, in experiences that you do in your own work. There is a tight connection between business and learning. And so social media drives this, of course, as this provides the platforms where this kind of learning can happen. Just saying that the platform alone and providing the technology and the software is not good enough. So you see these empty graveyards of systems that are not used. So what do you do to foster that? And I think that is something that requires also new roles, as I said before. But learning is a very important vertical for social media. But so is strategy. We have now crowdsourced strategy. We have open innovation. We have alumni of, let's say, executives that leave the company and still stay connected. We have supply chain dynamics that we can work on social media. So there is a lot of functional verticals where social media play a role.
Roland, it was a pleasure having you here in Munich.
My big pleasure, you. Thank you, Johan.
Thank you. Bye.